I really got a laugh at Deontay Wilder. After his comeback victory over Robert Helenius early this year, Andy Ruiz was the one pushing for a fight with Deontay. He was constantly in the media, him, his dad, his manager. They were all saying that's the fight they want next. Deontay, on the other hand, was looking everywhere else. He was talking about Francis Ngannou, this fight, that fight, the other fight. He didn't seem keen at all on fighting Andy Ruiz. His trainer Malik Scott was talking about the AJ fight and so on and so forth, and made it quite clear that Andy Ruiz wasn't their priority. But now we have Deontay Wilder saying that he's made Andy Ruiz an offer and that Ruiz should hurry up and accept the fight. It's as if he's inferring that Ruiz doesn't really want it. Laughable. As I say, Ruiz has been the guy who's been more keen on this fight from the very beginning. But the bigger question, for me at least, is why has Deontay Wilder decided to double back and revisit this Andy Ruiz fight, which he didn't seem so keen on earlier in the year? Because we've been hearing rumors that Deontay Wilder might have signed with Skill Challenge, the Saudi promotional outfit. And of course, Andy Ruiz, to the best of my knowledge, is still associated with PBC. If not, then he still has some type of relationship with Al Heyman, a contract perhaps. As does Deontay Wilder. Wilder, again, to my knowledge, is no longer under the PBC banner, but he still seems to be associated with Al Heyman. Is that association the reason why we're now apparently going to get this fight between Wilder and Ruiz? Was there some type of contractual obligation the pair of them needed to fulfill before being allowed to go and sign with different promotional companies? I don't know. I just find it odd that Wilder has done this 180, especially when you consider how dangerous a fight against Andy Ruiz could be. This isn't the kind of guy that you would fight in a tune-up when you've got a massive payday against Anthony Joshua in December. If it was, they would have already taken it by now. So perhaps this isn't a fight that Deontay Wilder wants to take, but one he's being forced to take. Again, I don't know. I'm speculating here. I'm an outsider looking in, trying to interpret Wilder's actions. Also, Wilder says he made Andy Ruiz an offer. Andy Ruiz responded to it by saying, my lawyers are looking over the contracts. We're going to get it on. Don't worry about it. But the question that popped into my head is, Al Heyman is the one who has access to the TV money from Showtime and Fox. So he's the one who makes the offers, or perhaps he does it through Tom Brown. So if Wilder has made Ruiz an offer, then where has that offer come from? Where's the money coming from for that offer? Do you see what I'm saying? How is Wilder in a position to be making offers to other Al Heyman fighters? Now, some might bring up the Anthony Joshua, Dylan White situation. Well, Dylan White isn't contractually bound to Eddie Hearn. Anthony Joshua is contractually bound to Eddie Hearn, and he is contractually bound to DAZN. And Eddie Hearn is contractually bound to DAZN. So when they make Dylan White an offer, they're using DAZN's money and they're making an offer to a free agent. Is Andy Ruiz a free agent? Again, we heard he was contractually a few months ago, but then we heard he's still advised by Al Heyman, and we also heard that Deontay Wilder's a free agent. So again, how is Deontay Wilder making an offer here? I'm not saying he isn't, I'm just genuinely unsure. Is the offer that Wilder's talking about actually coming from the Saudis? Does Wilder have maybe some association still with Al Heyman and some obligations to fulfill with Heyman, but Heyman has allowed him to incorporate the Saudis into the equation, whereby they can put up the money for the Ruiz fight on his behalf? That would be an interesting dynamic. There's been some suggestion that the Saudis might be involved in the Alexander Usyk, Daniel Dubois fight in Poland in some capacity behind the scenes. And by the way, with regards to Usyk Dubois, it hasn't been formally and officially announced, but it was the same with the Alan Babic Lucas Rozansky fight in Poland. That fight didn't get officially announced until no more than 3 weeks before the fight, 2 weeks before the fight. It was very, very close before they officially announced it. Strange. And maybe it will be the same here with Usyk fighting Dubois in Poland. We shall see. But yeah, getting back to Wilder Ruiz, again, it's the kind of fight for Wilder that you wouldn't take unless you were forced to take it, or unless you were receiving an enormous amount of money, given that you've got a big payday against Anthony Joshua in December lined up. Nevertheless, it's a fight I'm certainly not complaining about if it happens, because I've always wanted to see it. I've always thought it's a fascinating style matchup. But speaking of styles, which version of Andy Ruiz will we see? against Deontay Wilder. The old version, who was a come-forward pressure fighter, not a volume puncher, but a pressure fighter who would counterpunch on the front foot with very fast combinations. Or will we see the version of Andy Ruiz who fought Chris Arreola, who was moving around the ring? We saw a similar thing against Luis Ortiz. He wasn't up on his toes as much as he was in the second half of the Areola fight, but he certainly wasn't applying pressure. He might have done so in spots, but for the most part, he was circling the ring at long range, looking to beat Luis Ortiz to the punch with his backhand. He was trying to counterpunch the counterpuncher. It was actually a really boring fight apart from the second round? Ruiz dropped Ortiz, 2 or 3 times in the fight? But outside of those knockdowns, it was a really soporific affair. Is that the approach that he would use against Deontay Wilder? Standing off and looking for a fast right hand? Because if he chooses that approach, I think that would be a mistake. I think that to give himself the best chance of beating Deontay Wilder, he has to go back to being the old Andy Ruiz. Now, obviously, pressuring Deontay Wilder is risky, but standing off is risky too. If you stand off, you might be able to avoid his right hand in the early rounds. You can see it coming, get a hand up, move your head, and the idea is you catch him overreaching or lunging in, and you crack him. Deontay Wilder isn't the most well-coordinated fighter. But eventually, if you stand off Wilder, he's going to find his range. And when he's 6'7", with an 80, whatever it is, 3-inch reach, chances are, when you're both standing off, he's going to find his range before you do when you're a 6'1" Andy Ruiz. So it might be safer in the short term for Ruiz to stand off, but I don't think his offense is going to be effective at long range against Deontay Wilder. I think if he fights that way, it will just be a matter of time before Wilder catches him later on in the fight, by which point Andy Ruiz might be several rounds down. Whereas if he applies pressure, yeah, he could get caught at any time. But if he applies pressure from round 1, he's at least giving himself a chance to land something, or more of a chance to land something on Wilder and knock him out than he would if he stood off and boxed. So that's my take on it. I think he's going to need to go back to the old Andy Ruiz and be careful in applying pressure, as he can be. We saw that in the Joseph Parker fight. We saw that in spots in both Anthony Joshua fights. He'll keep his hands up, he'll tuck up nice and tight, he won't let anything clean get through. Andy Ruiz tends to get caught when he goes looking for you and he's trying to lead off. He's far more effective as a counter puncher on the front foot than as a lead puncher on the front foot. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think about all the points I've raised in this video. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast, where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.